Hey everyone, it's Stuart with Franklin Hill Ventures. Thanks for stopping by. We're in our 8-week countdown to going full time with this. So September 3rd is my last day at my current job. So after that, I'll be on my own and doing this all the time. So really looking forward to that. Speaking of that, I mentioned last week, sometime in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing at least one video, maybe a couple of videos about our journey into the reselling full time. Uh, Talk about what we did to prepare for this, what some of our goals are, uh, you know what we're going to do to to make it successful. So look for those. I'll probably do those as we get closer to that September 3rd date. So maybe sometime in the next 3 to 4 weeks, do the first one. Then the other video I'm going to do, and this was prompted off some questions that were popping up on some different Facebook groups about what people use to track all their inventory, their expenses, revenue, all those types of things. So uh, going to do one on the spreadsheet that I use that helps me manage my daily business, and hopefully it'll give some people some ideas about things that they might can do. You can always go out and purchase software. I know GoDaddy is one a lot of people use, but if you're looking for something that you can do yourself, maybe this will give you some ideas. Um, the last thing I'll talk about before we get into what we bought and sold this week is another thing that's been popping up on the Facebook group, and I always find interesting is how different companies get their names. So a lot of times people ask, what does Franklin Hill Ventures mean? How did you get that? Is your name Franklin? Which I get called that a lot with the company name, and that's fine. But as mentioned in the first of the video, my name's Stuart, not Franklin. So the way we got the Franklin Hill Ventures name is when we first moved back to Knoxville. I don't know, 15, 16 years ago. Um, and we would post stuff to Facebook. If you know on Facebook, when you post a picture, it'll tag a location, and it would always say Franklin Hill, Tennessee. I had no idea where that was. I knew I was in Knoxville. Had never heard of Franklin Hill, even though I grew up in Knoxville. So when I started doing a little research, I did find that Franklin Hill is a certain area of West Knoxville, but it's not even where we live. It's across the interstate. So I'm not sure why it tagged Franklin Hill in those pictures. But in any case, we like the name, threw the word ventures on the end, and that's how we got our name. And, have just taken it and run with it. So anyway, that was just a little side note. So now let's go ahead and jump into what's been happening in our world this week. Get my screen shared here. And first off, real excited. We got a whole nother batch of our Franklin Hill Farms products in. These are jams, jellies, salsas, barbecue sauces. We don't actually make these, but we have them made by somebody in Amish country, and they are really good. I mean, we we have people who stop in the booths, just for these, and we sell these both out of our booth in Bearden, in Knoxville, and our booth in Clinton at Granny's Attic. And we really have people stop in just for these. I mean, I know one person who lives in Nashville. They drive back and forth on 75. They'll jump off the interstate, pick some of these up, and buy a lot at a time. They told me they give them as gifts and such. My biggest issue is not eating my profits, especially on the peach butter here. That stuff is absolutely delicious. But some of we got 17 varieties in with this shipment. Some are ones we've had, some are new ones. I believe some of the new ones, the peach sauce is new, the blueberry preserves are new, the peach preserves are new, the peach barbecue sauce is new, and I believe the apricot is new. There's probably a few other new ones in there. But also some of our big sellers, our pickled baby beets, those always sell real well. The apple butter, the peach butter, of course. Whatever's left over after I eat 10 jars of it. Anyway, if you're happen to be in either Knoxville or Clinton, stop in, grab a couple of jars, and hope you like them. So moving along, um, this was one of our big online sales for the week, and it was a map of Oak Ridge, as you can see, from 1959, just a property map, and it was put out by the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission. So not, like when Oak Ridge was first starting back in the early 40s, but certainly in the, the height of the Cold War. Very cool map, fairly large, 55 inches by around 21 inches. Um, has all the roads listed. And my wife actually works in Oak Ridge, and I go to a lot of yard sales and stuff. So it was cool to see this map and, you know, look at what's changed, what hasn't changed. In any case, put this on auction. I do, 95% of my stuff, I do buy it now across the different marketplaces I sell on. Every once in a while, I'll do an auction if it's something that, I think it might go for more than what I'm going to initially ask. So I wanted to get at least $20 out of this based on what I had in it. I think I picked this up. It was in literally a whole box of maps that I paid $5 for at either a yard or an estate sale. And I've been piecing out the other maps in my booth, like, 3 for $10. They're mostly travel maps like you would get at gas stations, rest areas, those types of things. But this was a unique piece in there. So I wanted to get at least 20, threw it on eBay, started it with a $20 starting bid, and ended up going up to 41. So nice sale, very easy to ship. It was folded when I got it, exactly like this. So I shipped it exactly, the same way it came. So it had the same creases and such. So very easy to ship. It's always fun. I like doing auctions occasionally just for the satisfaction of hearing a bunch of dings on my phone, when it gets down in the last couple of minutes. So you don't get that with the buy it now stuff. So the next thing, and this was actually a consignment item. So, I didn't get the full $45. About half that, after fees and shipping and everything will be what I will keep. But, jewelry's a thing that I really don't sell much of, and I don't know a whole lot about it. I need to learn more because I know costume jewelry, can be a real good seller. And I've heard other people talk on videos. I know I heard Primetime Reseller talk one time about, um, you know, costume jewelry, especially if it's in the form of animals, will sell. And here's a good example of that. This is shaped like a bunny, has the glass eyes, very cool piece. I believe this designer, Mimi DN, I believe that's how you pronounce it. She was a designer of costume jewelry from, I think, the 60s on up into the 90s. This is one of her later pieces. But anyway, I also have a Noah's Ark piece by her listed that's really cool. It's a little more high dollar than this, so maybe a little bit slower seller. But I've had a lot of questions and watchers and such on it, so maybe it will sell as well. Next will be this Spode Blue Room Collection golf mug. I picked up a set of 4 of these at a thrift shop and listed them on Instagram. And I've recently just started selling directly on Instagram. Here's the format I use. This sold off almost immediately. I actually went to a local person who saw it on my Instagram account, so I was able to deliver it. So there was no shipping, but sold 4 of those, all 4 that I had to this same person at $20 a mug. And I think I paid maybe around $10 for the whole set, somewhere in that range. So a real quick turnaround, pretty good margin on that. So if you happen to see, any Spode stuff sells well. I know if you ever find the Spode Christmas tree pattern, that's always been a quick seller for me. But really anything Spode, you know, will sell quick. And older Spode, I know, is something that's very desirable. This is not an old piece, but still was a good seller for me. So moving next, if I can get my herring bar to move out of the way here, is a booth sale. So this, and the only picture I could find of this, it's this Armani figurine up here at the top, and it's hard to get scale on the size of that, but it's actually a really large figurine. I think it was around 16 inches tall, maybe. I had the box with it. This was part of a booth buyout I did from another dealer. I would say, I think I assigned around $20 cost of goods sold to this, sold this for 120. So, a nice sale. Figurines. I mean, I sell a lot of figurines online as well as in my booth. This is one of the more expensive figurines that I've ever sold, but I guess it's closer to a statue rather than a figurine being as big as it is. If you do see Armani figurines, I could have sold it online, probably for about the same price, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. But it wouldn't have been hard to ship necessarily because the box that comes in here has, all the styrofoam and everything built in. But it might have been expensive just because I think you would have gotten into dimensional weight. So I chose to sell that in the booth. And, it, I think it was in there maybe about 3 weeks before it sold. The next thing is another boot sale, and it is this World's Fair dripware pig that I believe was from Hull. And this was one of my favorite pieces. Almost kept it because I went to the World's Fair in Knoxville, I don't know, 130 to 150 times. This was when I was a teenager. I think I would have been about 15 then. And my buddy and I would jump on the city bus out in South Knoxville, take it all the way in to where the World's Fair was in the downtown slash UT area, spend all day there, mostly in the arcade and in the little amusement park area. Occasionally we'd wander up to the booths or whatever, but for the most part, we were always in the arcade playing Donkey Kong or Pac-Man or riding the Enterprise. So this brought back a lot of memories, but in the end, decided to sell it. It was in a whole box of piggy banks that I got. Many of them were dripware, which I've sold a lot of them already. This is one of the other ones that I have left. Excuse me, I believe it's also a whole as well. So this sold for, I think it was 35 or $40, and I got all those in one big lot at an auction, and probably only had a couple of dollars in each of the pigs. Once they were all counted and listed. And then the last thing I was going to show that I sold this week was this brass wall hanging that pictures the Last Supper. This is a good example of just anything religious. Uh, Always sells really well for me. That can be books. I mean, I think I sold 4 or 5 religious books last week. Between, I don't know that any were actually Bibles, but they were like study guides or commentaries, all from the anywhere from the 1920s up to the 1950s were the ones that I sold. This is probably from the 60s or 70s, I would guess. It was made in England. It's hammered brass over some type of form. Um, anyway, it was a cool piece, and didn't sell it for just a ton of money. I think it was either $16 or $18. Paid a couple of bucks for it at a thrift shop. So, quick seller. Um, and that brings us to the last thing that I'll show. It's not a sale, but it's something that I picked up at a thrift shop yesterday. It's this awesome. I love, chintzy stuff like this. Probably 1970s, maybe 1960s painting on velvet of the Last Supper. So I know this will sell quick as well. I'll probably stick it in the booth. That's right in that whole religious theme area that I just talked about. I still need to see if this glows under a black light, which will make it even cooler. I also haven't really done any research on the artist to make sure that it's not, one of the more known artists who used to paint on velvet. So, looking forward to getting that in the booth and seeing what happens with it. So I believe that is all I have to share this week. If you want to check out our social media sites, you can find us at www.franklinhillventures.com, and that has links to all our various social media sites. We're most active on Facebook and Instagram, but we're also on Pinterest and Twitter. And then you can also find links to all the different marketplaces we're on. We sell on eBay, Etsy, Mercari, Facebook Marketplace, Depop, and Poshmark. And then, as mentioned earlier in the video, we've just recently started to sell directly on Instagram and already have had a couple of sales that way as well. So anyway, I believe that's all I've got. We will see everyone next week, and look for those other videos that I mentioned. And I don't know, there's a couple of other ideas I've got floating around in my head for different types of videos. So I don't know, keep checking the channel. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button. Leave a comment. If you want to leave a comment about how you got your business name, that'd be great. It's always interesting to read, how people do come up with their business names, whether it's just random or they have some meaning to them. Anyway, Everyone have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.